Welcome to the Golf Coach Podcast, Jerome. How you going, man?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mate, I appreciate you coming on. We've had a few little conversations before about trying to tear this up, and you're an extremely busy man and rack up some frequent fly points, that's for sure. Whereabouts are you?
Definitely. I'm in Tampa right now. I'm in Tampa for the PGA Tour. I've got three players here, so I actually
Yeah.
come about, I'd say, once a month across the pond and come to America, and the rest of the time I try to spend it in Europe or even in Asia. So
Yeah.
it's been quite intense the last year and a half. But loving it.
Do you have a favorite tour to coach on?
No, I don't, and I mean I coach on the ladies tour as well. I've got a client on the ladies tour. I actually enjoy all of it. I'm employed to try to boost their performance,
Yeah.
and wherever it is, I'm really keen to do it. And as I'm really busy right now with professional golf, I actually miss junior and amateur golf as well. So I mean, it doesn't really matter where I coach, and there's been a lot of controversial lately on these different tours. I don't care. I don't mind. I just want to make these players happy and succeed.
Yeah. When you talk about controversy, I'm sure you're talking about obviously the whole
No,
live
no.
stuff and PGA Tour stuff. No?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Have
yeah.
you?
I mean,
Yeah.
there's been a lot of fights and a lot of controversial stuff on social medias and everything. I really don't have an opinion on that. As I say, I'm focused. I'm a I'd say golf pervert.
Yeah.
And all it matters is just, it's just show up and build a plan and support this guy as long as they employ me wherever they play, actually mini tours as well. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just like to see good golf swings and performance, whatever the level is.
And would you even say that as well, Jerome, like to kind of just tie a bow on that, right? I know we don't want to go into the whole tour versus tour thing, but it seems to me that it's mainly a media bash up because when you see the relationship between players, there doesn't seem to be any hostility at all. Like the media might capture the PGA Tour player or someone being a little bit off guard and take one line and run with it, but it definitely just seems to be more like these days we enjoy drama. It's what we always see. Everything's negative news and it's what gets the clicks, right? Would you
Yeah,
agree it's probably more on the
yeah.
media side that are creating this?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
It's more media because I won't say any names, but I've seen situation where, I think a lot of people would be surprised to see how close some of these players are. And then you read in the media, is it correct news or is it even fake news? That's why I don't try to read that much
Mm.
of these things. But I've seen players that I thought were, disliking each other, and they were actually having lunch for about an hour and playing a practice round together. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, they're all very competitive. It's the same, and we'll talk a little bit about it in the Ryder Cup. I mean,
Yeah.
it brings out the competitor out of everybody, and you think there is some controversial stuff, but at the end of the day, on the Sunday night, it brings everybody together, and so it's
Yeah.
pretty much the same, I think.
Yeah. And I think we'd be crazy to, there is 100%, like you say, competitive nature. And I understand that there would be, there's always going to be personality clashes when you get a group of, 200 people, right, who especially at the top of their league, top of their tree, you know, um, it takes a special kind of person to get to that position as well, right? A
Yeah,
tough-minded kind
yeah,
of person. You are no doubt. You put 200 people in one room. I promise you, there is going to be arguments and disagreements, right? And
yeah.
so that is natural and normal. But to say that it's you don't like this person because they're on a different tour, I think that's just a media bash up, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's a media, but there are definitely, I mean, competitors like no
List.
others, and
Yeah.
and just a few guys that I coach have, we used to do a few chipping contests and stuff like that, and I mean, sometimes I was just like, whoa, I mean, is this guy serious? I mean, he just wanted to kill me. I mean, just
Yeah.
casually putting on a Wednesday night for $20. I mean, the guy just flipped completely. And I mean, and I love that. But then I saw that in these guys, and I was like, well, I wasn't meant to do that. And that's the beauty of it. Is just they can switch it on when they want to win. They want to win. Yeah.
That's yes, I love that. I love that. So let's talk about kind of a bit of an introduction to I classify you as a tour coach, right? So you coach on the
Yeah.
tours, and you don't coach. I'm assuming you don't coach any recreational golfers. Do you just want to give us a bit of a rundown of who you coach on tour and how that became a part, to kind of give people an introduction? Because I think a lot of people, a lot of golf coaches, young golf coaches out there, want to coach on tour or have an understanding, but probably don't even understand how to get involved in that. Like, how did it happen from you in your experience, and who have you got out there on tour?
Um, so to mention a few names, obviously the four Belgium guys that are playing on tour right now, which would be Nicolas Colsert, Thomas Peters, Thomas Dietrich, Adrian Dumont, the Chassard,
Yeah,
the new player,
yeah,
and on the ladies tour Manon de Rooij, she's one of the leading players in Europe. So pretty much it started in my country. I'm also coaching. I have the chance to coach the two Molinari brothers, Eduardo and Francesco.
yeah,
Um, Alex Levy also
yes,
that I've been involved with. Lovely
mm,
guy. Also, we can talk a little bit about him.
yeah,
And Frédéric Lacroix, which is a new pro as well. He's on the DP World Tour and he's started the season quite well. Comes from the Challenge Tour. So I've got a few players, but my first client was Nicholas Colsert.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, it's a great story because we grew up together playing golf. We actually hit our first golf balls together on a vacation site, the seaside in Belgium, and we actually met there because they were renting an apartment on top of where I was actually staying,
no
and we
way.
actually yeah, so we actually connected that way. We took the bike and went hit some balls on the beach. And so we connected that way, and then we started playing a lot of junior golf tournaments in Belgium. We went to the national team. We did some European Championship and stuff together. He was obviously very very talented. He went on the main tour when he was 18. He got his DP World
Mhm.
Tour card. I went to college. He played for a few years on the DP, and then he had kind of a slump and came back and joined me on the Challenge Tour. So we roomed a bit on the Challenge Tour as well. And then I decided quite quite quickly to leave professional golf aside, and he hired me straight away, actually. And he said, why don't you join, and why don't you start traveling with me? And that's how it started, actually, in 2000 and end of 2010, 14 years ago. And so he was my only that's how I got on tour, actually.
Wow.
And that's the thing, is I think that's the best way to get there, is to actually either connect with a player you've been growing up with or you've been coaching back home, and then jump in on tour, because it takes a bit of time as well to develop I'd say, business on tour, to attract players. It takes quite a bit of time. You have to be patient. But he was my solo client until 2016. But then I had the chance to work with amateur golfers who actually joined on that tour. So my tour player team actually grew up by working also back home. It wasn't like I picked up players on a
Yeah,
range on a Friday night after they've missed the cut. I've actually never been like that. And
yeah,
I love to develop as well, and that's why I was saying to you when we had our chats before, that
yeah.
I was actually missing a little bit of the junior golf, because my last junior is actually now on the PGA Tour, and I've been doing that now
Ah,
fully. I've been doing fully tour coaching and traveling, and I'm actually wondering, trying to clean up sometimes to actually go back a little bit to junior golf, because that's for me the most fulfilling thing is, you get
yeah.
a phone call from Adrian, which is the last one. You get a phone call from, I got the card. I mean, and you go back to 10 years ago, even more. Yeah, I think 10 years ago, where I took him to his first international tournament. And
Wow.
he was 12 year old, and trolleys at the airport, parents signing papers for me to take their kid to an international tournament. Took him in his best buddy, 12-year old, in a hotel, played the tournament, finished second, cried,
Mhm.
went to TGI Fridays, bought him a burger like that, and we build a really good relationship out of that. But I've known him for so long, so that's actually something that's very satisfying. And I think that it depends on coaches. I think that's what's cool about um, having different versions from coaches, but I need an emotional bond. I definitely need an emotional bond. I think it's very important to do this job. To be, I mean, every players have mentioned there. I do have an emotional bond, and if he would stop, I think I'm sure that I would still be talking to them.
Yes.
I mean, I'll still be friends with that, and that's something for me that's super important. I think it's very important to them as well. So Nicola,
That's
coming back to
yeah.
Nicola, yeah, I mean, he
Yeah.
was my first client, and we worked for about more than 5 years just with him. So I was traveling a little bit less, but that was my first client. That's how I got on tour,
But that's
and we
such
were
an interesting.
successful.
Yeah. Yeah. Very successful. Very successful. But so tell me about. You must have had a keen eye, or there's players who understand the golf swing, and there's players that don't want to understand the golf swing. You must have been swing technique minded or some sort. How did you go from being a player to all of a sudden adopting Nicholas Coulthard? It's like, how was your understanding of the golf swing, or was it not necessary to understand the golf swing, or how did you go so quickly? Because you've just jumped on like a pretty top racehorse pretty quickly.
I've been interested in golf technique for so long already.
Yeah.
When I was a junior golfer, I think I owe about 1,246 golf books back home. People are going to be like, "Whoa, this guy is this guy is crazy." And I've got every single Golf Digest edition since 1964. So just to tell that the audience that I'm a completely golf nut,
Whoa.
and I'm very comfortable with that situation, So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but so I've been in books. I mean, since a young age, I owe every single David Ledbetter tapes, VHS, CD, DVDs,
Yeah.
whatever it is. So I've always purchased a lot. And when I went to America, I had a chance to meet a really famous golf coach called Randy Smith,
Yes.
who's built guys like Justin Leonard, D.A. Weibring, to name a few, up until the best player in the world, Scotty Scheffler. And so
Yes.
I've had a chance to be around him quite a lot and took a few lessons from him, played
Yeah.
college golf, but I used to hang out quite a bit at his range. And looking back to it right now, I think the passion of coaching was already in there. But obviously, like any kid,
Yeah.
I had big expectation or big dreams, sorry, about being a PGA Tour player. Actually wanted to pursue that. And for the little funny story, when I was rooming with Nicholas Coulthard, I was always bringing the Dave Bell's Bible, the 8-Step Swing from Jim McLean. And why do I remember these books? Is because Nicholas Coulthard one day threw them out of the window because he said, "Mate, I walk into this room, I go to the toilet, or I lay in bed, or I sit down anywhere. There's a technical golf book, man. It's so, excuse my language.
Yeah, you can
It's
swear.
fucking me up. It's fucking me up." He
That's
said,
exactly what he would say.
you need to get rid of that." He said, I don't want to see it." And so actually I was already busy reading every night and making
Yeah.
little resumes and blah, blah, blah. And actually I was feeding a few guys with ideas, and I was bringing training aids. You have no idea. I mean,
Yeah.
I would sacrifice anything to bring my putting mirror and putting plane and blah, blah, blah. And so when I was on the challenge tour, I think I'd spend 12 hours a day on site, and I think I hit about half a bucket,
Wow.
because I was just busy setting up stations or discussing. And so I think with Nicholas, I think that's, obviously knowledge, and to pass on this knowledge takes quite a bit of time. I think a good coach is either bold,
Yes.
which I am, or either has gray hair, which I do as well if I let the side grow.
I did.
But
I
but
was thinking that when I was looking at asking you some questions. I was like, did you have a full head of hair when you started being a tour coach, and now are you
oh
bald
man,
because of being a tour coach?
no. They actually started falling off. Well, not late, but quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you need a lot of experience. So I mean, having the knowledge and teaching it's something. And then I learned a lot from Nico. Nico is also my best man at my wedding. I'm his best man at his
Yeah.
wedding. He's the godfather of my kids. I'm the godfather of his kids. I mean, we have
Yeah.
a brotherhood relationship. I think he was also very communicative with me in the sense of, okay, Jay, this works, this doesn't work. So actually, I got a lot of help, and then I kept on consulting as well. I mean, I've done a lot of. I mean, when I decided to teach, I said, all right, well, there's only one way is to go get info with the best, and I already had a lot of insights
Yeah.
from a guy like Randy Smith, but. I did so many seminars, and whenever we were traveling, because Nico played on the PGA Tour in 2012 and 13 and 14, I mean, Golf Digest, best in state every single week. Every time I was traveling, best in state, phone him. And I told Nico, I said, do you mind if the Monday morning, I do something? He said, no, no, go on. So I've seen so many guys, and I
Wow.
just show up, pay an hour or two, and just, just learn from these guys. And then on tour as well, learned a lot from Pete Cowan. He's also coaching Thomas Peters. So I'm not the only one. I wasn't the only one on the job. But
Yeah.
I've learned tremendous from him as well. So that's how it started, and I keep on learning right now. I read a lot of books, and I like exchanging. And I think we know so little. We know a lot. We know so little, but there's so
Yeah.
many information out there, and it's actually yeah, thrilling.
Yes. Well, that's a really good insight into how it all is. And I would say to myself, on a similar scale with my playing career, I was always I loved learning the reason to why, and I loved problem solving, right? And
Yeah,
I would do a lot of that myself, I guess, and always interested into why certain things happened, and always had a keen interest in golf swing mechanics, even through my short playing career. So it was, if people who were traveling with me now would reflect and say, oh, Toby's a golf coach, I don't think any of them would be surprised. And I think if anyone ran into you throughout that time of your career on the Challenge Tour, no one would be surprised that you're a golf
no,
coach right now.
no,
Do
yeah.
you, what would you say right now, if you were Jerome's golf coach back then, and you were walking into a situation where your student Jerome had 1,000 technical books, on all things, right? 1,000 training aids, and was completely obsessed, sitting on the can reading Dave Bell's books. What would you tell you now, if they wanted to be a professional player?
Oh, I would open up and say, that's not the path to your dream.
Yeah.
There's much more to that. And actually, I think you learn from your experiences. I think that's a very classical sentence I've just said. You learn from your experiences.
Very
But
wise.
actually,
Very wise.
but actually, when I introduce myself, or when I get a new client, junior golfer or any golfer, technique is 20% of the recipe, not more. And sometimes these guys are at 15% of their potential technically, and they want to put so much effort, but 1% in that bracket. Yeah, I mean, okay, he's going to develop more skills and performance, but there's so much more to that. And I would just tell that Jerome, if I had to speak to him right now, I would tell him, listen, I am traveling a lot. Would you mind taking over a few weeks?
Yeah.
I would love a colleague or an assistant, because you're made for
Yeah.
that job. And I mean, just coming back to that, and I like to share these little things, but a few guys would always mention, they said, you're one of the only players. We don't know, when you walk in the room, we don't know what you shot. And I said, what do you mean? He said, well, when you shoot 68, you can kind of see it in the, in your body, in your attitude. Or when a
Posture.
player
Yeah.
shoots a 75, yeah, he said, you walk in smiley and you say, how was it? And you go, oh, 74. And I said, yeah, well, I said, I was happy when I had a technical thought or something, I went out and tried, and I had a little bit of success. That was my thing. I mean, I was super
Interesting.
excited. I could come back with a 74 and say, mate, this all your deviation is fantastic. But
Yeah.
I mean, that was
Yeah.
me. That was me. Yeah. Yeah, so I had a lot of time, and they still joke about it. They love hearing my stories, and I
Yeah,
think we could stay 10 hours on that. But if one
I
day
love
you
that.
get if one day you get Thomas Peters on it, he loves my stories of missing cuts, and I've got so plenty of stories. And I was always free the weekend. I
Yeah,
was
that's
always
awesome.
free the weekend. So anyway,
I love that. I love that. That's really cool. And yeah, that just goes into the mind of a coach too, right? Like it takes, like you were saying before, we were talking, I don't know if it was off air or on air, about a different type of person it takes to play professionally. You know, you're talking about you're playing these competitive games with them for $20, right? On the putting green or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And it takes a different type of person to be a golf coach as well.
yeah,
From a golf coach question here, it seemed to me like you were incredibly good at gathering the information and learning the ins and outs of the golf swing, right?
yeah,
So when I hear everything you're talking about there, right, and what I hear there is nearly Mac O'Grady-esque type of stuff, right? And I hear like an abundance of information that you've just got, right? And like Mr. Mac O'Grady has got tons of it, right? And how well did you go packaging that up in the early stages and trying to coach that? Because obviously you had so much given to you, and then you had to try and implement this information into golf coaching. Did you find yourself at times early on, I'm going to use the term, kind of over coaching, or was
yeah.
was was that a difficult transition?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. I do still fall into that
Same.
sometimes, and I still have to catch myself. I'm much better at it. I think I'm much better at time framing it as well. I know when I can go deep into it, and I tell
Yeah.
myself, and I try to be organized on that side of saying, all right, I can go deep. We have a month, or in the winter, win tournament. I've put myself a rule, that a few players know about it. Tuesday, 12 o'clock, done. Okay, we should be ready, and we need to
Yeah.
spend more attention on other stuff. But I do sometimes fall into that, and I did last year again with one of the players, and he played good that week, but he felt crap. He said, I mean, every time I was in front of the ball, I felt crap. I felt crap, and I felt crap looking at you because I was just having all these angles and all these things in my
Yeah.
head. So, but I try to keep it very. What I do right now is I always try now to build a blueprint, and I write down what we need to do in the technical. I measure everything, and I try to concise it in a few little things, and try to keep it quite easy. So I have to structure myself on that, which I'm doing. I'm trying to spend more time on the other brackets of the coaching.
Yeah, and I want to ask you that question because when you said something before, but something that reflected for me, I reckon a big shift that I made about a year ago, because I do a lot of volume, right, of golf lessons, and a lot
Hmm.
of people was, and you use the term blueprint there, which I love, but I guess as well for me, it's like really understanding what the end goal is supposed to look like. So
Yeah,
what I mean by that is we don't want to chase our tail every split second. It's like, hang on, our issue is ball flight. We're talking about ball flight, is the main issue is X. You know what I mean? Our goal is to just stop that shot. Let's not react to this one today and this one yesterday and this one tomorrow.
yeah,
What is our main goal here for you to what we want? And if we look at the main specific part about a position of the body at a certain aspect of the goal swing where we want that person to be, then I'll always keep saying to my student, this is the goal. We know what our goal is. We know what we want it to look like. But today we're going to package the information a little bit differently to still get to that goal. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It's like
yeah,
I think people will still need to be like, I need to be as well, because I can chase the tail around. It's like, hang on, we want I don't know, let's just say at impact less lead knee flexion, right? We
hmm,
know that's the goal. That's what we want to get done. But we're going to try multiple things. We're going to try something today to get it. It's like, we didn't get it in a month's time. Let's try something else to get it. Do you reckon? Like
yeah.
that's kind of that helps people as well, in my opinion, because we know there's 1,000 ways to do something. But as long as we know what we're trying to get done, we're going to try different ways to get it.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. What's really interesting and has been one of my main studies in the last few years, and the way I package is, it's nothing new, but you obviously have the technical part, yeah, which I call the T, and there I use the three P. Okay, so there's the position, the power, and the pattern. And I analyze these three. So in the position, the McGrady type, P position, which position do we need to, based on the ball flight, which position do we need to correct? And then I go into the power, and the power is what is he, does the player has the capacity in muscular capacity of sustaining that movement. Okay, does he have any
Mm.
restrictions? Okay, so I write all that down when I do a blueprint, and then I go on to the pattern. With the pattern is the signature, is the sequencing. We know now with all the biomechanics that everybody's different. How should he grip? How is his shoulder? How tall is it? Does he has longer arms than his body? And all these things I've picked up from, and not to name it, Mike Adams.
Yeah.
Which I found really, really interesting. And there's many other guys that have
Same.
done it as well, but he was the first one I really listened to, and I was like, "Wow, okay." And so in the technical bracket, I use these three P's, and I go through that and I package it. And then there's obviously the skills. So the three P's is more motor performance. Yeah. It's just positioning, is how do you build the structure, the architecture. Unfortunately, the motor performance is a very short term. It does not, you do not transfer that automatically into
Yeah.
playing and performance. And then you've got the skills, which is the motor learning, where you actually start putting variability and adaptability, shaping shots and stuff like that. And that is a very important phase for the golfer to be able to transfer to performance. So I actually do brackets of technique, skills, and performance, and I divide it in percentage of attention we need to give to that player. So basically, it's 20%, 40, and 40. That would be the usual structure. But I always go to these three. And I've learned from other discipline that you actually, if you do the technical part, yeah, and do not do skills in the same day, yeah, you do not get into that retention phase. So it's actually leading the player into
Mm.
the structure, but then during the skills, and that's very important. And I learned that from Randy Smith, who one day told me a silent coach is a very good coach. And I was like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? What do you mean, Randy? He said, well, once you're done with the explanation and framing the information, he said, in the skill play, if you come back with motor performance stuff, you're breaking the session. There's no retention
Mm.
phase, and that was something where I was like, whoa, okay. So I mean, you mean and we call that deliberate practice, but it's like you give you information and you stand there, but you actually let the player do, because the more they start doing that, we start getting into the motor learning, and he actually will be able to take that and go out to performance. And performance, we all do measurements. Either it's in tournament, the performance, or either it's just drills where you can actually measure your progress. We need to know in golf, yeah, and it was hard. Now we have launch monitors and everything, but we need to know if we're actually progressing. So I
Yep.
work this T for technique, skills, and then the performance, and that's for me very important. And also in how you go about and how you talk to the player. And I think there's one thing as well that one day I came across. It's called novelty dependent salience. Yeah. And novelty dependent salience, it was quite interesting article, or it was a
Yes.
big chapter in a book. It was how to catch the attention of somebody, but you have to let the player own the information. And if you constantly come back with, if you impose your information, yeah, in the brain, and that's all scientific studies, they do not actually start to
Yeah.
get that movement. And
Uh-huh.
so you actually have to romance it. And I've heard so many coaches where I had a chance to shadow, who actually, the information is obviously the good one, and they have a lot of experience, but then they kind of question, they offer options, they romance it, a bit of a novelty. They've
Yeah.
got story sharings, and I apply that. And I know I'm getting carried away because I've got so
No, no, no,
many
no, no. I'm with you.
stories to link with that. But Nico played the US Open, the one Justin Rose won in Marion.
Yes.
Okay. And we actually took a little retreat, and we went to Oakmont. Yeah. And we contacted the secretary of Oakmont, who was there when Johnny Miller won it. And
Okay.
he actually walked on the course with us. And I asked him, I said, can you stop us and actually toss a few balls where Johnny Miller was? And we had an unbelievable day, and inspired Nico so well. I don't know if it's connected to his performance, because he was leading at
Yeah.
one point, finished 10th, but I was dropping balls there, and he said, "Oh, Johnny Miller from that," and I actually linked to what his flaw was. So we actually watched the video, and I was like, "All right, we'll drop a ball here," and he said, "Oh, from here, Johnny Miller hit this shot." And Nico was just so into it. He had an unbelievable day where he was trying every kind of shot and every
Interesting.
kind of. So that's a bit what I've been trying to study, and I'm far from the answer. But I find it very
I think,
interesting how you can actually put the information into somebody's head.
but what you're finding there as well is you're finding you're getting into the psyche of the player as well at that point in time, creating some type of feel, a different angle, a different
Yeah,
a different desirable thing to kind of strive for, because it's not the old tiring same thing each week. It's something different. But what you mentioned about information and about being silent, and I think it's also more of another case for, like the one-off half an hour lesson isn't great, because you can have the technical side, like you talk about that 15%, but you're not giving them opportunity to do the skills practice and the performance practice. But
yeah,
one thing I heard about information, right, is that I think I'm paraphrasing from what I learned here, right? But you can tell the same person the same thing 8 times, right?
hmm
Is equal to getting them to answer the question once. So, like, what I mean
okay,
by that is kind of getting
yeah,
them to get the answer
yeah,
from you asking a question about something, maybe perhaps through the skills position. Like, so for instance, if I'm to give an example, I'll give an hour golf lesson and we'll get through the technical stuff. And I always like to say that in an hour, I want to have everything wrapped up in 40-ish minutes. I don't want any
hmm
new information after 40-ish minutes. You know what I mean? I don't want to be
yeah,
chasing my tail.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
no, yeah,
40 minutes mark, I'm like, I'm ready. Like, information shared. Haven't hit that many balls, but they're on board. They understand they can move the certain way we want them to move. And then I'll say, all right, hone in, see the white sign out there. That's our intended target. I want to see 10 shots in a row. I'll leave you alone. I'll go back, I'll get my cup of coffee, I'll open up some beef jerky, and it'll look like I'm not being interested, but I'm giving them the opportunity. But what I've learned is I can ask the right question after that skills practice that they can give me the answer
yeah,
instead of me having to tell them, because apparently it takes 8 times
yeah.
instead of them experiencing it themselves. Does that make sense
Yeah,
to you?
yeah, yeah. It completely makes sense, and that's exactly what That's I think that's spot on, and it's so important how you actually and you also catch the attention of somebody when you actually put if they feel interested and they start
Yeah.
feeling like they own and they actually discover themselves, which which
Yes.
I which I don't care. I think maybe some coaches are wanting to pass on the information, and but
Yeah, I
once
get
they
you.
own it, it's I think that's wonderful. How do you make them better? And there's
Yeah.
more than positioning, which also is very interesting. And then the other thing is, and I'm sure that in your being a technical
Nut.
golfer as well, and not, yeah.
Yeah.
You know how you swing it, you hit the positions, it's wonderful. It doesn't really work, and then somebody tells you, yeah, but think about the target. Yeah, and you're like, oh well. I mean, it's just such a big gap between that, and
Yes.
and had a chance to talk to somebody that's an expert in this field, yeah, in human behavior, human performance, nothing to
Yeah.
do with golf. We actually started chatting about that, and he said, well, there's a few stages to get to that, and if you can actually teach the few stages, you can actually bring somebody from technical to thinking about the target. But you can't go from, all right, I'm done with my position and now I'm thinking about the target, and it's too big of a gap.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah,
he
I
was
get you.
talking, and everybody's heard that information before, but you've got close internal, where you actually think about everything that's going on, and then you've got far external, and then you've got kind of a mix of these two, and then you go into close external focus, which is way more powerful. And then you've got many steps. And I also try to, whenever I feel like the player is owning the position, then we start mapping. What say mapping is starting to find external focuses, which are way more powerful, and then they can actually transfer it to the golf course, and they actually start connecting to the environment. But you can't connect from mechanical thoughts straight away of, all right, well, now I just think of the target. There's a few steps to do, and so that's something we work quite a lot as well on it.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. And I'm going to say as well, though, that there's obviously quite a few differences between being a tour coach than, sitting on the tee and coaching, like I might do 8 1-hour sessions in a row, because a lot of the technical work is done. I mean, done, but it's not new information each time. So, I guess there's some very big differences in that regard as well, to how you're putting together someone's training and measuring as well, right? I guess a lot of measuring going on.
Yeah,
and making sure that they're all aligned.
Yeah, and a lot of statistic as well now. Huh? We work a lot of statistic, and Eduardo Molinari, which I have the chance to be close to by coaching him, and he's got actually a statistic company called Statistic Golf, which he's built for his game when we were on the Challenge Tour. Yeah, in 2006 he won in Colombia, and he was filling these sheets of paper with his statistic, and now he's offering his service to the best golfers in the world, and he's got unbelievable statistic, and I am now hooked to that, because I can see, in details, what we need to work. We can measure everything. I know that a few players are better with a 3-wood in a dogleg this way. If the wind is from that side, he's poorer on the pins on back left pins with a 6-iron. Obviously, I gather all this information. I do a debrief with Eduardo on the players. I don't always tell the players that, because it could become more complicated. But that's also fascinating. We can measure everything now. And it's the same with, launch monitors, force plates. We can actually start measuring a lot, and we need to use that.
So I recently just had Scott on from Decade Golf, right? But what you're creating there with Eduardo, what Eduardo's creating, but what you're using
Eduardo,
there, it sounds to me like it's extremely personalized, right?
Yeah.
So you're collecting your own statistics. When you say there, like, say, for instance, someone struggles with a back left pin with a 6-iron, or let's just use that for an example, right? Is that taken just purely in tournament conditions? And how much sample are you wanting to see before you make a calculated assumption that person does struggle with that 6-iron back left pin?
Yeah, well, I didn't exaggerate a bit in the example I gave. But it's collecting over. I think we get a report every 3 months after a certain period of rounds, but all the rounds are in there, and we can even know, is he better from left to right, right to left. It's Eduardo's program, but is he better on Bermuda grass? Is he better on bend grass? Is he better on POA? Is he putting this way? And so we got so much information from Eduardo that, it's funny, you would think that, I have one of my players where actually if he has the opportunity to do a driver, that's the best club off the tee. And we've always, strategy, it's a 3-wood here. And since we know that, it's made a big difference. His dispersion with the driver is the smallest.
And since you know that as well, I just had this conversation with Scott. It's like you also have a more level of commitment as well, right?
Yeah,
Because
yeah,
you've been told not through emotion, not like, oh, I feel like it is. It's like, I am the best with this club. And then when that player's got that club in their hands, they're like, I know how good I am with this club. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it's also
No,
that level
yeah,
of is
yeah,
crazy, right?
exactly, exactly. And you can discover many things. You can see maybe there's a material, a bit of a, you know, uh, has there been a change in loft? If we see that the nine iron is not performing as well, we've had the case where we go back, measure it, and then actually, there's a loft, there's a degree missing.
No way.
It's little things like that. But I think nowadays that I mean, when you see Scotty Scheffler's performance at the Players, I mean, there's no more room for I feel good and I guess it's this. I mean, it's done. It's done.
We've got to be, everyone has got to be getting those 0.1% to get anywhere near him at the minute, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
far out.
yeah.
Where do you see? I'm not like, I don't have a lot of stats. I told you I don't get to watch a lot of golf anymore, right? Before the
Yeah,
podcast,
no,
I think
yeah.
we're talking about that. But where do you see him going forward as A, one of the best players of all time, and B, one of the best ball strikers of all time? Like, he's going to, if he keeps on this trajectory striking wise, is he going to be the best ball striker of all time?
I think so. I mean, statistically, it is just from tee to green. It is just unbelievable. And now he's started working with a putting coach, and it seems like it's working really well because he's starting to thinking a bit more putts. But it's just very, very, very impressive how good he is. And
So impressive.
talking to Randy Smith as well. I mean, the things Randy make him do, the skills. I mean,
Mm,
he shapes it on the range like no other. And
wow.
and I actually had a conversation at the Masters last year with Randy on the bench there, watching all the players hitting balls, and he talked a lot about that. He said, well, I mean, there's few technical things that he's been coaching him, I think, since he's 6. So obviously he knows he knows everything about his golf game and his technique.
Yeah.
But he said we do a lot of skills. I mean, we're shaping the ball and sometimes big shapes. But he's very creative and that's how he owns it. And then Randy is a silent coach in the back, and
Wow.
that's how good they are. Yeah, yeah, it's
I,
impressive.
I, I was actually watching, you know what I do put on sometimes is the other day I was doing my online stuff and I put the thing to the side, just leave the practice round. Like, sorry, there's a driving, what do they call it? They call it the practice day or something on
Yeah,
what we have Fox Sports over here. And they were just talking about Scotty Chef on the range, just hitting some balls. And I was just kind of watching it as I was like just doing some work. Not coaching in person, coaching like online or doing some podcast stuff, whatever I was doing.
yeah,
I wouldn't be watching golf coaching in person. Anyways, I was watching it and the commentators they were talking about him. But what I noticed was he was using his grip right club, right? You know, he has the grip right club where
yeah.
the molded grip. And he hit about, I think it's a 6 iron or a 5 iron. Anyways, he hit 5 in a row and it went 181, 182, 181, 183, 182. But the commentators didn't notice it because I was just watching the TrackMan stuff up top come up like on the screen. I was
Yeah.
like, man, gosh, he's just, even in warm up. And then he had a talk after it. And then I kind of just started just going back to work. He was talking to his caddy or his coach, probably Randy. But just the consistency and the depth of how well he was controlling that ball, even just in a warm up, like it was just incredible. Like,
Yeah, it's incredible. He never misses on the wrong side either. I mean, I was watching a little bit on the players, and we were chatting actually today with 4 players at lunchtime, and they were saying he's always on the right. He's always on the good side of the green. They're all so impressed. I think he's the best. He really,
and
really, really is the best.
and I think he's got one of the best caddies too, right?
Yeah, I don't know him, but yeah, it seems like it's working really, really well. Yeah. Yeah.
Because missing on the right sides would be a little bit of caddy influence too, I'd
Yeah,
imagine.
yeah, definitely,
Big
yeah,
time.
yeah, and control of your ball flight. Because if you tell me if we go play tomorrow that I can't miss it left, I'll probably soup it.
Well,
Most likely soup it.
we would say we can't miss it right, but the player would probably say we could miss it. We could miss it left. They probably
Exactly. That's
word
a
it better.
different words. Yeah, power of words.
Hey, I want to talk to you about one thing I did get really invested in. Is I get invested in probably two tournaments, the Masters and Ryder Cup. I
Yeah,
just I don't know why, it just draws me in like crazy, and I think it's different. I love the passion, the emotion attached to it. What you'll find here, and I'm sorry for the Australians listening who disagree with me, but there everyone who I know supports Europe, right? Like if you're down at the golf club, I used to work in golf shops. It's always, how's Europe going? Like it's, for some reason we all attracted and drawn towards Europe,
yeah,
but we hate the English cricket team. we,
yeah.
we
I
hate.
know that.
I always want English cricket team to lose, so that part can get nicked. Even when they're playing India, I'm like, go India, come on India.
I know.
Which
I know.
is yeah. But anyways, let's get into Ryder Cup, and you've been involved in Ryder Cup, and I really want to bring it up just purely from, I just love it. And I know you just went to Rome, and I messaged you and said I want to talk about this, and you said to me that you're an assistant coach at Medina, which is like the miracle at Medina, right? Isn't that what it's called? Like,
Yeah,
what
yeah.
happened?
Well, Nico qualified for Medina, so I was
Medina, sorry, that's right.
taken.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was taken on board to go there and spend the week there with the team. I mean, it was different. I mean, to put it back into the story, in Rome, I was assistant of Nicola, who was the assistant of Luke. And I
Yes.
was also assisting a few players on the golf course, and I'll get to that. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but Medina, I was coaching Nico, and yeah, I mean, obviously, it was an unbelievable performance, unbelievable Sunday. I think everybody remembers it. But I didn't get as much inside the team or inside the locker room. I wasn't allowed in the locker room back in Medina, or I was purely on the range with Nico. I was walking inside of the rope, so I mean, it was an unbelievable experience. But
Yeah.
I wasn't, and it was new. I was new in this environment as well, so you kind of stay in the back there, and just take care of Nico. But Nico was unbelievable. I mean, when he beat Tiger Woods, I mean, that was just amazing. And I remember he didn't sleep. He couldn't get to bed. The
No
day
way.
after, I think, no way, no way. I remember chatting with him. I wasn't in the room with him, but he kept on texting and saying, mate, I can't. I mean, I've got too much adrenaline. There's no chance I'm gonna fall asleep. I mean, 11 o'clock at
So
night,
this
midnight,
is
1 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
before playing Tiger or after beating Tiger?
No, after when he won it. I mean, he said, you just lock your hotel room. You get back and you're like, you look yourself in the mirror and you're like, I mean,
Yes.
I mean, the adrenaline, the energy that he got out of it. He said it was just well, the biggest rush.
So
So no,
basically, yeah.
it was a
So go.
wonderful
Sorry to cut you, but
experience.
to go into the last day there, right? If I recall, Europe needed 8 and America needed 4 or 4.5, maybe. Was that right?
I don't know. See, I
Yes.
don't. Those are the kind of information I can recall any major or any swings or any
Yeah.
names, but
No, no. So
that I don't
Europe.
remember how many. I think six. No,
Nah,
um,
I think it's 8. It's
a
8.
more. Yeah, probably. Yeah, yeah, eight. Yeah, they needed to win 8 games. Yeah,
Yeah.
at least. Yeah,
And
something like
so
that. It
when
was
did,
phenomenal.
and it was one of the most amazing comebacks of all time. Martin Keimer holding that putt. I think
Yeah.
he beat Steve Stricker. So tell me, what number did Nico go out against Tiger? Do you remember? Was it early?
You know what? It was just so emotional, and years
Can't
ago,
remember.
I can't remember, but I know that. He played with Lee Westwood, and Lee Westwood actually took care of him the entire day. And Lee Westwood said, "I'm not gonna let Tiger any close to you, because already being
Really?
on the same tee is something phenomenal." He
Yeah.
said, "He's not gonna get close to you. I'm gonna be every single time between you and Tiger. I'm gonna guard you." And those are these little stories where actually
Wow, that's
it
cool.
plays a big role into it. And actually Nico, went out and played unbelievable. but I know
And
Westwood.
yeah. And
I
that's not
know
against Tiger because Tiger's not going to do anything untoward towards Nico, but it's
no.
because Nico not to get so overwhelmed in the situation, right?
Well, I think if you get shoulder to shoulder, I've the first time I've crossed Tiger in the locker room, I was already like, whoa, you know. I mean, it just, you know, it's Tiger Woods. But if
He's a
he gets
god.
next to you on the tee box, I think that if Lee Westwood is between, there's a bit of a psychological, protection to that. So that was a
I
fun
like it.
story, and I don't know if you recall it, but during the match as well, they pulled a little trick, like a strategic trick on Tiger and Steve Stricker, where actually Nico stiffed it. I'd say I can't recall it, but Nico stiffed it about 10 feet, and Tiger put it at 11 feet, and Lee Westwood hit it at the back of the green. Yes. So Nico could putt before Tiger. And he said, you're going to have to make it before Tiger. And so actually, when they showed up on the green, it was Lee Westwood was the furthest. So Europe could play it first.
Europe
And
plays first. Yeah.
Nico went on, hold the putt, and the camera goes on Tiger, and he smiles at Lee Westwood, saying, well done, buddy. Well done. You guys are clever. This is going to be a good match. And then it started firing. I mean, Nico had 8 birdies and 1 eagle just to win one out. Just to win one up. So imagine. I mean, it was a video game. It was just piping drivers down and hitting wedges and irons close and holding putts. No, it was amazing. It was amazing.
Does Nico smash it? Yeah, he hit it a
Nico
long way.
was, yeah, Nico's nickname was the Belgian Bomber.
That's
When he was
right.
yeah,
Yes.
he was the Belgian Bomber. He was hitting it. He was hitting a mile. He
Yeah.
was hitting a mile, and people thought he was a gym fanatic, but and he won't mind if I say that.
He's
He
not.
was never close to the gym, no. But he was hitting it really, really, really far. Back in the days, it was quite impressive.
Yeah, he looks like he smashes it, but I'm
Yeah,
assuming he's a little on the taller side too, right? Is he
yeah,
like
yeah.
six
He's on
two,
the
6'3" or something?
yeah, yeah. Six
Yeah.
6'2", yeah, yeah, 6'2". But
He-
yeah, I mean, he's just very, very, very long.
Is he a funny guy?
Yeah, Nico is well. His second nickname was the Dude.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, he's a funny guy. He's a funny guy. He's a nice guy to be around, and we have many good stories together. And he
I think
likes to have a good time. Yeah,
I think I saw a few jokes around how he wore shorts to the Ryder Cup in the practice round, and he went up to Rory and said something to him like, "You don't want to wear shorts, Rory?" And Rory's like, "No, I like to keep things professional," because of it was a bit of a dig at Liv because
oh
they wear shorts, right?
yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
but Nico
yeah,
was you could see he was
yeah.
winding it up. It was all a wind up. It
Yeah,
was
yeah,
really
no,
funny.
yeah, no. Yeah. He's obviously he's a fun guy, and we have a lot of we had a lot of good times. Yeah, a lot.
All right, so yeah, the Miracle Madonna, that was fantastic. And take me before I ask you some questions about Ryder Cup. Take me to Rome. I reckon I watched Rome. Yeah, I didn't miss a game. It must have been great timing for me, to be honest. I think I got to watch it at a certain
Yeah,
time zone for me here in Australia.
yeah.
How was that whole experience?
Well, that was the best golf week, of my life. We had some successes winning as well, which were unbelievable. To celebrate on Sundays. But being around a team like that, it was absolutely phenomenal. And so Nico got selected as a assistant captain, and
Yes.
phoned me straight away and said, "Jay, we've done Medina. We're doing Rome. We're doing Rome together in the buggy." So that was a phenomenal news. Um, and we went on to a training camp, and Luke Donald, which I don't know him.
Yeah.
It's somebody I've seen around, and we played a few times in college actually, but I didn't know him. He did an unbelievable job looking back at the Ryder Cup. I mean, he's a very organized person. He's got no ego.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know you say in English, but he can put everybody at its place, and everybody felt important. And I was a buggy driver, and I mean, it just
Yeah.
sounds. But my job was driving Nico to secret team meetings with Luke Donald and Thomas Bjorn and Eduardo and Francesco and Olasabal. So I was driving Nico. I was following players. I was getting their food ready, backpacks, making sure I was looking after Justin Rose mainly. Driving the buggy, making sure he's got enough hydrolytes, anything. I had the best buggy. I wanted to make the best buggy. I had absolutely everything. You could charge your phone and your iPad in my buggy if you wanted to in the middle of the
So good.
round. I had chewing gum. I had anything. I bought everything. I had little pockets of everything. But I mean, it's a simple job. It's not like it's not like.
Yeah.
But being inside of that team was amazing, and you felt important. I mean, Luke Donald had this magical touch of making everybody, I mean, bring the team together, making everybody feel important in their job. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was amazing. No ego in the sense of, it's a team success, and you could really feel it. You could really feel
Yeah.
that, okay, it was the main captain, but I mean, he was listening to everybody, and he selected also the assistant captains were just very diverse, in the sense of Eduardo Molinari, the stats guy who prepared for months and months, the pairings, the foursomes. I had a chance to talk with him, and I'll let you talk with him if you want to invite him one day, because I think that will
Yes.
be a wonderful show, how he
Yeah.
prepared. Foursomes, four ball, who plays with who. I mean, he recorded everything, who plays a spinny ball, this distances, target. I mean, he'll talk better than me, but so you had a guy
Mm.
like that. You had Thomas Bjorn, who has an unbelievable experience in professional golf, who is very wise as well. I had the chance to listen to
Yes.
him, in a team meeting. It was absolutely wonderful. At Olasabal, who is the figure of of golf, the fire, the Sevi Ballesteros, the
Yeah.
Go Europe. I mean, the guy. I mean, back in the days, they were flying to big America. I mean, Europe was, it was a little brother, and I mean, so
Mm.
Olasabal had to fight with Sevi against the giants of America and beat them. So
Yes.
that also, when he was opening, when he was speaking up, it was unbelievable. Yeah, Francesco Molinari, which is the more of the quiet guy, but very caring, very. Then you had Nico, which put a lot of kind of the big brother Nico. He
Yeah.
took care more of the younger guys. So yeah, I mean it was phenomenal. It went so smoothly, and then the caddies as well. I mean, you had I don't know if they planned that. I'm just giving my own experience,
Yeah.
but in the caddy room you had the Billy Foster. Billy Foster.
Oh,
I don't
really?
know. I don't know how many Ryder Cup he's done. So he's getting for Matt Fitzpatrick, but I think
Yeah.
I think 11 Ryder Cups. I
Yeah.
must
He
say
would have
at
done a
least
lot.
at least or 13.
Yeah.
Sorry, Billy, if I got it wrong. But
Yeah.
but I mean, he took the lead. I mean, I felt so comfortable as well. I mean, I felt comfortable
Yeah.
because I don't know all these guys. I mean, we were in the same weeks and stuff like that. But obviously, you walk into the room and there's Rory and then there's John Rahm and it's a bit. But
Yeah.
I felt really really comfortable in there. And so Billy Foster and Donaghy, who caddies for Tyrrell Hatton, were kind of the two experienced caddies, and they
Yeah.
put an atmosphere in the caddy room. I mean, I've got some videos. We were sync every night, every morning in the bus. I mean, it
Crazy.
was yeah, it was crazy, crazy good. And other
Do
than that, the winning, the team was phenomenal. And I think everybody's supporting Europe. It's a bit like against the big America. So
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
think so
people.
too. I think so too, because it was always, we all love an underdog. Like my father-in-law finds it funny that when we're watching NRL, that he'll say, "Who did you tip in the family tipping comp?" And I'll say X, but I'm going for Y because they're the underdog all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
nearly got a full round last week, and I still wanted all the time the underdog to come through. So I think that is where we come from in regards to, supporting Europe here in Australia. But when you talk about, I think it's a really cool thing about that environment there where it's important that Luke didn't put, I guess it sounded like he created everyone to be equal within the environment, which creates a sense of comfortability, right? Where in another team environment, where if it was like, you're just a buggy boy, you stay over there, you don't come in here, or you make sure you watch out for X and take care of him, where all of a sudden you're creating a lot of divide there where he's getting everyone on the same page and putting everyone together, and that gives a sense of comfortability, and honest conversations can be had without emotions being too attached to it, you know what I mean? So, because everyone's
Yeah,
coming from the right place. So I can
yeah.
really, when you're telling that story, I can really understand where the success came from.
Yeah, it was
But
phenomenal, and everybody knew his job. I mean, I got there in the morning and I was getting my players' backpack ready, putting on the buggy, making sure the avocado chicken sandwich is ready, the cold protein shake. They also had a team of doctor, because you only see 12 players, 12 caddies, and a few. But I mean, the six
yeah,
doctors, the six physios, the guys preparing the food, the dietitian, the everything. I mean, the atmosphere inside of the locker room was phenomenal because everybody was running around, but in a good atmosphere, and you could, I mean, and I think that's kind of a skill. I mean, Luke is a quiet, well, he looks like a quiet person, but
yeah,
do you say delegate? I don't know how you say it in English. I'm sorry, I'm
yeah.
fluent speaking,
Delegate is
but
when you allocate jobs to other people, like
yeah,
delegate.
well, he delegated that in an for me in an unbelievable manner. And then the players. I mean, there was absolutely. I mean, Rory came out so strong at the Ryder Cup, and as much as he was maybe carrying the team, he wasn't carrying the team. He was.
Yeah.
Everybody's giving such a personal effort. I mean, the Justin Rose as well. The putt on that first day to square the match, and oh, it was phenomenal. It was absolutely phenomenal.
I would even say through that stage there, just reflecting on some of the golf there that was played, gosh, Victor Hovland going into that was probably the world's best
Amazing,
player, right? At the time.
amazing,
Gosh, and
amazing.
just watching him, I remember just clearly watching him a lot off the tee, and he was just so straight. Like
Yeah,
that first tee shot, a lot of the time, he was so good to watch. And then Rory just hit a couple of the most amazing shots. Is it 17, that par 3 maybe?
yeah, yeah. I mean, he stiffed it every day. He stiffed it every day, every
And,
day.
and one time he did it like when the American knocked one in there, when they were like
Yeah.
maybe one up with 2 to go, stiffed it, and then he stiffed it on top of them. It
Oh
was
yeah,
just,
stiffed it on top.
and we're talking like 5 irons and stuff here. We're not talking a flick wedge.
Yeah. No,
It's
no.
like,
Amazing. They all played amazing. I mean, Ludwig Aberg. I mean, he was in
yes.
college 3 months prior to that, and picking him, and he was right to pick him. I mean, it's that these young guns, Nikolai Orsgaard. I mean, was also in good form. I mean, they were all in good form. But I think that's a big part of team success. Team sport is to be able to delegate, is to be able to put everybody together and feel comfortable, and then off you go. I mean, and I had to take care. Well, I had to take care. I had to drive the buggy with Nico, and we're looking after Justin Rose and Bob McIntyre, who was absolutely phenomenal. Bob
Yes.
was. I mean, Bob, I think he caught his first breath on middle of the first fairway after the first tee shot on that Friday, and he said it as well. He said, "Gosh, I need some hair." Scottish accent. Yeah, yeah. I mean, good, but yeah, it was an incredible experience. It was truly magic, and then the bus ride back, and the little beer after that in the locker room, and just
Yeah.
crossing the guys. It brings out a few souvenirs as well. Just good memories, and they all stayed really cool actually as well, because you expect like a few months down the line maybe, but they're all pretty cool guys. But the competition was very high, and I mean, it just transformed itself. I mean, I think it's a particular event. I mean, you just want to win so much, and then you see a Zach Johnson crying. I mean, Jack Johnson is crying suddenly because they lost it. It brings out so much emotion. We all cried. Everybody was crying at the
Tell
end. It's
me,
just
from perspective of us wanting to know this as outsiders looking into your beautiful world that you get to live in there, are you seeing the players, just from your perspective looking at it, are you seeing a lot more pressure that they're putting on themselves, all that situation, then for the player than it is playing, say, Augusta and the Masters?
so more pressure at the Ryder Cup than a major.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think the pressure is, I mean, obviously I was nervous walking to the first tee in Medina, and I was nervous walking to the first tee in Rome. I don't even have a golf club. I don't need to tee the ball. I don't need to
Yeah.
perform. I mean, so I can imagine the level of stress of putting that tee in the ground and, and rip a driver in front of everybody. I think it would be interesting. It's a good question. I think it's a different kind of pressure. You kind of feel support by the team. I mean, by being playing a foursome or a four ball, playing with somebody with experience. I think the pressure is different when you play like a master. You're on your own. You have a score. You shoot a good score, a bad score. You just drag yourself
Yeah.
around all around. But the Ryder Cup, it seems. I mean, you got all the team is there on the first tee. I think that it
Mhm.
doesn't really matter. You just go out there and just put the ball in the hole, and you don't really think about score, if that makes
Because
sense.
yeah, I understand that, because the reason why I asked that question is when Bob McIntyre got, down that first fairway and said, I need a breath. I wonder if he's been under that, if he's put himself under that same amount of pressure going down the first fairway of a major, if he's ever said that to himself as
I,
well.
I'll ask him tomorrow. I don't think so.
Ask him.
I don't
I,
think
I,
so.
I don't, I wouldn't, yeah. I'm assuming I asked that question with maybe thinking that it's different, obviously, but it seems to me like the pressure that the players put themselves under, is what we should always say, put themselves under. It's only the pressure that we put ourselves under. It's not from anyone else. It seems like they're putting themselves under more pressure in the Ryder Cup. Well, you look at what
Yeah,
happened in America, Whistling Straits, the one before,
yeah,
where Europe copped a pretty bad beatdown.
yeah.
Um, they selected a bit of a different team then, not blaming the team by all means, but they always had their backs against the wall. But there was a lot of emotion in that as well, right?
Oh yeah,
From the European tour
yeah,
players.
yeah. Definitely. I mean, you saw Rory was. I think Rory was a bit of a revenge from Whistling Straight. He was not going to let that Ryder Cup go back to America. I guarantee
Mm,
that it was on his
yeah.
mind. And we did a training camp as well, which I don't know if they ever done in the past or not. But Luke and everybody showed up. So we were in Rome 2 days prior to Wentworth. 12 players, 12 caddies, captain, assistant captain, buggy drivers, everybody involved. So he didn't,
Mm,
he did a camp. So actually, when we showed up for the Ryder Cup, the environment
yeah.
was already known. We knew everything about everybody and got a chance to, introduce ourselves. And that was also a very good, I think, very good training camp. And we all flew together to Wentworth, which was really,
Yeah.
really good.
What a it just looked like such an amazing experience, and two of my students actually went to it. Went to when they were over there,
Okay.
and
Okay.
I actually love Rome. I think Rome, at times I've heard in conversation that people have found Rome not their favorite part of Italy, but I love Rome, and I
It's
love the
amazing.
history attached to Rome. And you go around there and go to some tour guides, or go through the Vatican and go for a walk around the Colosseum, and you go some really cool, passionate tour guides, and you just don't want to leave. It's such an
No,
amazing
it's
place.
yeah, it's an amazing place. It's one of my favorites. So I'm a bit biased here, but
Yeah,
I've
you love
done
it
Rome with
too.
the well, I've done Rome with the family a few months prior to that, and
Yep.
I love everything about Italy. I mean, they've got the best cars, they've got the best fashion, they've got the best food, they've got
Yes.
unbelievable wine, they've got
Yep.
unbelievable culture, they've got unbelievable manners, they've got unbelievable looks, charms,
Yeah.
unbelievable women. Yeah, no, but I mean,
Yeah.
Italy is an unbelievable beaches. I mean, yeah, I mean, Italy is the country in Europe. I shouldn't say that, but it's the country, I
No,
think.
no, mate. I went there with my wife, and we have before prior to having kids, and I'm looking forward to taking them there when they can have a little bit
Oh yeah,
more of I guess, understanding of it. So I'll probably wait till they're into their teens
yeah,
maybe.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I really enjoyed it, and we stayed in a place, Trastevere, which is just like a
Hmm.
little thing. I don't know. Are you familiar with Trastevere?
Yeah. Well, the name.
Yeah. Well, in there, it's like you got the beautiful cobblestone kind of roads, and you're in these beautiful buildings, and you kind of go around and you go, oh, there's a pizza shop just here, or there's a gelato shop just
Yeah,
here. You don't even know.
yeah,
And it was just like being in a movie. And I could just have walked around there all day because it just was just like this. It was felt fake. It was like it was beautiful. We really,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
my wife and I really enjoyed it, and we did a lot of Italy, but we cut the
no,
trip a
the
bit short to
places.
even get back to Rome. You know.
Yeah, yeah, no, it's
Um,
amazing, amazing place.
so, did you have a come down after the Ryder Cup? Did you have to have a bit of a break? Were you too excited?
Uh, no, but it stayed in me for quite a long time. I mean,
Yeah.
songs like we were singing at night. We were singing in the caddy lounge, and I still have these songs in the back of my head. And sometimes I flip my phone and I go back to the Rome videos and I just play these videos. And yeah, I mean, it hits you. I mean, once you have the chance to live in this team environment, it's unbelievable. It's
Yeah,
just yeah, and this. Yeah,
I'm sure.
it's the best week of golf in my life, definitely by far,
I love it.
by
I love it.
far.
Hey, tell me, right? Let's switch into a little bit of coaching, right? A bit of coaching.
Yeah,
Um, you've put a dot point down here about coaching philosophy and working with personalities. Do
yeah.
you have a particular swing model, or what are you studied up in? Can you kind of educate me a little bit on that?
Um, yes, in the philosophy which I described in the beginning, the philosophy or what I'm trying to, is obviously build that blueprint in the technical part and just develop a lot of skills and then, come
Yep.
around with a lot of games to measure. So that's the core of the thing.
Yep.
If you go back to the technical part, um, I mean, Mac O'Grady, I actually started studying the golfing machine and I bought the book like everybody, got delivered to my door, started reading it, and after a few pages, you're like, okay, what's going on here?
Mm,
And and so I inquired on that, went on the website, tried to find stuff, people describing it, and then I saw that there was actually a class in London, golfing machine class level 1, so I enrolled. I went there, and it was a lot of work, a lot of reading, and it was absolutely fabulous. And I was saying that there's a lot of again broadcaster or people that are criticizing the golfing machine being built in the 70s, and it's outdated and blah blah blah. But it's not a philosophy, it's not a method. A golfing machine. There's so many. It's actually a genius work of what can you do with what can you do with a strong grip, what are the different planes. There's so many variation, and actually
mm,
opens up your mind to start building your own
yeah.
kind of patterns in philosophy. And so I did level 1, and then I did level 2, and then I got into Mac O'Grady, and then I said, well, Mac O'Grady is a pure product from golfing machine. Who else? Stack and tilt. Went to a little bit to stack and tilt, and then and then a few coaches I met had been in contact with Mac O'Grady, so that was kind of the thing I really followed. I really enjoyed it. Um, and then obviously, like everybody, I started going into force plates and motions and biomechanics a little bit, trying to understand how we move better.
Yeah.
So I've done all of that as well. I purchased some force plates, and I did a lot of testing myself. I think that's the best way of also being a good coach is, does it work? Do you need to try it yourself, for sure. And then, the amount of hours I stood on these force plates trying to, see how it actually needs to move. Does it make sense? Does it look good? Trying to analyze data, trying to get data from tour pros, across and see it. And, so a big thing for me. That was something I really liked. And then discussing with other coaches. I mean, during COVID, I got in contact with Andrea Scali,
Yeah.
sent him a message on Instagram and we became buddies. I mean, the first call I called him and I think we were both bored during COVID and we chatted golf for an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah.
And then now we cross roads sometimes in tournaments and we have a little beer and we talk golf. So I'm a very curious guy. So I think that's also a part of trying to excel in some coaching business or any business that's helping others. I mean, I'm very curious. I want to know all the time what's going on and what's best.
Yeah. And I don't think it's a coach. Oh, I shouldn't say that. There's many coaches out there who have followed some form of system, right? Like if it's golfing machine, stack and tilt, if you pigeonhole a bit more towards Mac O'Grady, Morad, I think, our minds, especially problem-solving minds, is we can get direct answers to certain things. You know what I mean? Like we can get an answer. Like if X is happening with the grip type, then we know that they can't get as radial from there. They're going to be more ulnar. Or we can get these direct answers where if someone moves this far off the golf ball, then these three types of things are going to happen when they come back. And I think that's really, really cool for us to learn that. And I the term I use is that once you learn all the rules, right, you can then start to learn how to break the rules, essentially.
Yeah.
So, that's the kind of way that I like to explain it, where, yes, I've seen this happen on 4 different occasions and 4 different things can happen for it to happen. So to come back to something. So if there's a backswing movement, I've seen 4 different ways that they've kind of moved back in towards a golf ball. So you start to learn all these case studies and the kind of the flow on things. And I don't think, I think sometimes people can pigeonhole systematic coaching or stuff, and say it's a negative by all means. I think a lot of it's the groundwork, right? Like the concrete slab for you to kind of flourish from. I think if you start to, just like we were saying at the start, not being open-minded and snob your nose to certain things, then you're not going to learn. Yeah. You're not going to know everything you need to know.
Yeah, 100%. And I think, people would be surprised. I mean, the last thing I purchased Scott Cowkes, who I bumped into the driving range today. And I mean, he's got phenomenal material. I purchased Steve Giuliano's program on Skillist.
Yeah,
I did purchase it.
Yeah.
I don't even know Steve, but I really enjoy watching it. There were so many good things as well in there, and I think that's very important. And that's something I'm really against. It is that there's guys that put work out there, that have the courage to put some work out there, and I have a lot of respect for that. Is it fully true? Who knows? But I would hate people that would start criticize Dave Pelz because it's wrong. The putting pass he was teaching was actually not a square face.
Yes.
Yeah, but his studies and his research and the putting Bible, we all followed it, and he had some success with that. I mean, Phil Mickelson was doing brilliantly when he was he taught a lot of players who won. Same with his wedging. Is it right? No. I mean, the spin loft is not correct, and the way you have to hit the ball, but it's amazing. I mean, he put the work out there. So there's always, it's the same. Yeah. What I'm trying to say is the same with the golfing machine. Yeah. He was in the 70s. I mean, imagine the guy in the 70s putting geometry and physics already. I mean, we're talking about 54 years ago. So it's so easy to point and say, oh, that's wrong and Pelz is wrong. They weren't wrong at that time. We all followed it. And I think that's fantastic, is that some guys are, we might in 10 years time, if we talk about it, I mean, some stuff would be like, oh, gee, we were teaching that, it wasn't. But that's the fun thing about it. It just keeps on. And I love purchasing. I'm very curious. So, that's the way to go.
And I think as well, right? Like, I really understand what you're saying there as well. I think where people get wrong when there might be a clash of systems or clash of opinions is that people are too narrow-minded to think that only one thing can happen from one situation. Do you know what I mean? Like when someone says this has to happen from here, like the systematic approach that someone's coaching within that pigeonhole there, right? I understand how you get it to there. Absolutely. I get it, right? And I get it how you've got the person set up, address, how you got their arm structure through X, and I get it how you're getting them into impact. I get it, right? But I'm not going to argue with you that it's the only way, essentially. Yeah. You know what I mean? And but I watched a video the other day. I was just making my kids breakfast, and I think I said this on the podcast, and I just had the YouTube, I had the laptop up and open up YouTube, and obviously it's a golf lesson video, and it was with the DOD King, that CVA golf, whatever. He's funny. Yeah. I think for some reason his stuff popped up. I'm not a subscriber to him on YouTube. It just popped up, and he's getting a lesson off Genghis, and it was like 10 minutes. I thought, perfect. That's enough to watch while I'm making my eggs and the toast for the kids. Right? Yeah. And I watched exactly how Genghis moved him around in this golf lesson, what he was teaching him. And would I do it the same way? No, I wouldn't. But do I know exactly what he was trying to do and got to achieve? Absolutely I do. I could see exactly what he was trying to do in the lesson. Like I could see everything he was trying to do and everything he was communicating, and everything he was telling him was exactly what it's me judging George, but it was exactly right with what George was teaching. Like you can argue what he was saying, but everything he was getting him to do made complete sense, and the implementation of the information was in the correct order, I thought. Probably was a little bit too much information, but it was in the correct order, and I could see exactly what Genghis was doing. Would I go teach it tomorrow? Probably not, because I don't know it. I'm not going to teach something I don't know, but I thought it was a really good reason to watch and think, fuck, he really knows what he's talking about. Even though he cops a lot of heat, cops a lot of heat, and him versus Athletic Motion online, it's this thing, right? But I could see what he was trying to do, and he did a really good job of it.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's phenomenal. You can learn from everybody, and everybody's got his own way, and I respect that.
Yeah, but where I don't like about with golf, right, is like I can sit down with my spiritual friends and we can talk about a few things. They might have different ways to approach certain things. Where it gets wrong is that if another system come into here and argued with that system, that to me is just stupid. It's like, I understand how you do it, but this is how I do it, and I get a good result too because I coach players on PGA Tour and you coach players on PGA. That's where it's stupid.
100%. And then there's guys that I always say also there's guys out there, we don't even know their names, they don't know an Instagram page, and they are so knowledgeable.
Yes. Look at Brian Manzella. Brian Manzella, I think, has got a ton of knowledge, and he's got like 2,000 Instagram followers, and he's putting out the best content.
I went to a seminar with him, and it was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
I can tell you another name of a golf pro where a guy's called David Lee. It's called Gravity Golf.
Okay.
He's got an outdated website. You have no idea. The typical late 90s website, called 1-800-GRAVITY, I think, but it was phenomenal. The way he was teaching, the passion he had in there, the system he put in place, the convictions he had. Yeah. I think it's very good. It's very fun.
Do you know, I download a lot of golf swings and just study them, right, to put them into my skills tab and just analyze them, right? I want to learn how things happen, and I have a real interest in basically the reason why is I just want to know how that works. How's this guy on the PGA Tour? I want to learn about it, right? One thing always kind of really took me probably the longest to work out was just how well Justin Thomas hits it with how shallow hand depth he has. That one was just kind of that one was one of the toughest ones for me to kind of really get my head around. But who coaches Sergio Garcia, and why do I never get any footage of him pop up? Like I want to see some of his range footage, but I never see it anywhere.
No. I'll send a few next time I go to tournament. I'll take a few videos and I'll send it to you. Promise.
Because people,
his father teaches him.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, his father teaches him. Yeah. He's always been with his father. So, and Sergio, I still have pictures I took with my camera in 1995. I played my first European team championship for Belgium, and he was already the European superstar.
You joking?
Yeah, he was 15. He was shooting under par. It was unbelievable. And I remember I finished my run and I went and followed him. It's the same age.
Yep.
All the kids were hitting balls, and I was like, well, I need to see this Sergio Garcia. And I went, and I've got a few pictures I took with my camera, and I've got a few pictures of his downswing. It's identical.
Is when he's on the range, if you recall walking past him, when he's moving from like P4 into P5, I've heard stories that does he do any swing feel stuff from there, and is he trying to empty out the load, or is he what do you see him doing on the range?
hitting balls.
Just hitting balls, not doing any kind of feel stuff,
Yeah,
or not like an Alex Noren
never.
or a Thomas Dietrich or.
No, absolutely not. He takes a bucket and hits balls, hit shots,
Just hits shots. That's all he does. He's
fades,
not
draws. Yeah, that's all he does. I've never seen him. Yeah, I've never seen him in a position.
interesting.
I've not watched him hours and hours, but I've never seen him really doing position work. You
Interesting.
know, so that's one of the guys I've not seen. He's a proper grinder though, but
Yeah, he's a
no,
swinger. He's not a positioner.
yeah,
Hey,
no,
I was
no.
flicking through your Instagram page as I do before I have things, and I saw, I think it was Thomas Dietrich or Thomas Peters. I'll have to be mistaken because I've got your notes that you sent me, not my notes. Who was doing all this crazy drill feel stuff? Who's this?
Yeah, Thomas Peters.
Is he just taking
Thomas
the Mickey?
Peters,
Is he
yeah.
taking the Mickey or is this legit?
No, it's actually legit. I
Yeah.
don't know if they're all really good. I don't know if they're all really good drills with the cross feet and I mean, yeah, I mean, but they're legit drills. Again, if you go back to personality, I would put him and Nico Golsert in the same category
Okay.
as. I mean, you have to frame your information the least to say the most. It has to be, I mean, one information. And if you give them drills, it will do it. But do not go down the explanation lane. It doesn't work. I mean,
Interesting.
they're feelers. And when you go to Thomas Dietrich and a Adrian Dumont, and you
Mhm.
go Eduardo Molinari, which are more analytical, they love numbers.
Yeah.
And don't try to fool them. Do not try to fool them. And that's really funny because, I mean, I'm not saying you're fooling, but what I was saying, you have to romance,
Yes.
you still do it, but don't romance with these type of guy. I mean, if the swing direction needs to be -3 with a 7-iron for them, don't bullshit it. I mean, they like practically. It needs to be, they all do aim points. These type of guys. The other ones would never do it.
Yeah. So
But they like the.
what I'm hearing you say there is like, don't try and package up an easy feel. They want to actually know.
Nah,
They want to know
yeah,
the why and the ins and outs. That's interesting. Hey, tell me about the cross-legged feet. So what I saw, right, was cross-legged feet standing up, hitting a ball, or just making a practice
yeah.
swing. Can you give me some
No, he was. Yeah, he
perspective
was.
into this? What
He
the
was.
hell?
He was actually. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I know. He was. He was actually. Again, he was. So Thomas Peters has a tendency to raise his arms quite a bit and kind of lean
Yeah.
into the shot, kind of tip over, yeah, and doesn't really feel the stretch that he would need to feel
Yeah.
at P4.
Yes.
So he's lacking a bit of depth and doesn't feel the stretch, and he actually crossed his legs and said, "Wow, I feel the stretch. I feel the stretch," and then started hitting balls like that, and finished sixth at the race to Dubai that week. And all he said, "Oh, I feel the stretch." But see, again, they own that. That's exactly the thing, is that they actually own the information. You pass on what, you need to get more depth. You need to get more depth, Thomas. If you start telling him, yeah, you need to get more depth and it needs to be there, for this reason, for the hand pass to come more in front, to have the club shallowing, blah, 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 center of mass, done. No. But if you tell him, you need to get that stretch,
Yeah.
yeah, and he crosses his legs and says, "Oh, Jay, I feel that stretch." It's perfect. It's done. I mean, job done. And he functions like that. He
Who?
functions like that, and he loves drills.
But how did he come up with that? To me, like the first person that ate a mushroom in the bush to try and get high. Like who? Who was the first person to sit there and to sit there and just go, I'm going to smoke this plant. It's going to make me high. But what about like?
Yeah,
I found out a way to get some stretch there and to not reverse tilt the top of the backswing at P4. If you cross your legs, like that's never crossed my mind to sit there and say, I'm going to tell someone to cross their legs here.
yeah. But he's a passionate golfer. Thomas Peters is,
Yeah.
first of all, super generous, genuine, funny. Doesn't always come across like that on TV, but he's absolutely, and I say that truly, it's not because he's my mate, but he's
Yeah.
so enjoyable to be around. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a great guy, but he's a golf nutter. I mean, he could hit balls all day long, and I mean, he's a machine. I mean, he went up to 23rd in the world.
Yes.
But yeah, he likes these drills, and likes to keep his mind busy, and try a few things. So
Yeah.
it's funny. So I thought we posted that because there are three funky drills in there. I mean, cross-handed, cross legs.
Yeah.
When he does a few things, and and influenced by Pete as well. Pete is also very good at. I mean, we were talking about a few coaches that. Pete Cowan is the power of words, and how he packages and how he
I've
passes
heard.
on the information is actually stunning. Older coaches like that, they have they can come right to the information and get these guys. I mean, it's experience as well. Huh? But that's the fun part about it, and we've done consulting. I mean, as well. I think as a coach, sometimes as well, if you have we're talking about, I mean, Nico has been a very long coaching friendship relationship. Thomas Peters has been very long. Adrian Dumont, I've been with him very, very long.
Yeah.
Thomas Dietrich, he's been very long. He was in college, Thomas Dietrich, so it's been very long. And I had a question from, it's a long relationship. How do you, how do you keep them? I said, well, I don't try to keep them. First of all, I mean, everybody's free, and as long as my services are good or they're happy with it. But when I don't know, we do consulting.
Yeah. Okay.
And some people sometimes are, but I went with Nico. We were stuck on the putting. I went with Nico to see Dave Stockton prior to the Ryder Cup. Yeah, when he made 8 birdies and an eagle, and we went to see consulting. A few years ago, Nico won the French Open, and we were flying back from the British Open in Carnoustie, and he was a bit frustrated. He said, "Listen, mate, I totally get what you want to do or what I need to do. I totally trust that it's the right thing." But he said, "We're stuck." And I said, "Yeah, we're stuck." And he said, "Well, what's the plan?" And I said, "Well, let's find somebody that can unlock that. You need another speech."
Yeah.
And I said, "Well," and then I found somebody that, was good for his personality, was not going to get into too technical, because I just mentioned Nico is somebody that, you don't want a speech. And so I contacted Dennis Pugh,
Yep.
Dennis Pugh, which is a PGA master in England. And I phoned Dennis Pugh. We flew to Dennis Pugh, and I explained a little bit to Dennis what was going on. And we had a coffee without Nico. I mean, he showed up on the range, and it took 10 minutes.
No way.
Same kind of information, different words, packaged differently. Obviously, a lot of trust in Dennis Pugh, because he's coached so many great players through, victories and majors. But it took 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and Nico was flushing it. Today, that's why I wrote you that I didn't know. Today, Thomas Dietrich on Statistic Golf was really good out of bunkers last year. Really good. Working together, and this year has been struggling a little bit. And we go through the same thing, posture and what I know about bunker and what worked for him.
Yeah.
But it didn't work. And last night I sent him a message, and I said, I called Pete Cowan, who is absolutely the best bunker coach in the world.
Yeah.
And also other areas.
Yeah, of course.
Kill me if I say he's the bunker coach.
Yeah,
but,
of course he's
I
not.
contacted Pete. Yeah. Oh, Pete is. But I contacted Pete, and I said, "Pete, can you share a bit of wisdom tomorrow with us?" 30 minutes in the bunker, and he was having that unbelievable sound again. Height, spin, longer ones, shorter ones, and it's what you want as a coach. You want your players to play good. And I think that, a guy like Thomas Dietrich, when we walked out of there, he tapped on my shoulder and said, "Thanks, coach."
Yeah, cool.
We have to find solution. And at one point, sometimes, you're just like, "Mate, I mean, I'm delivering the same lessons as in the past. There must be something that, my eyes is maybe not catching." Or, I mean, Pete came in and, few words, few keywords, another type of drill, and it was phenomenal. And sometimes these players needs to, so you don't, I think you need to leave the ego in the locker room. Sometimes you don't know. And when you don't know if you want to keep a player, And it's the same with junior. Sorry to interrupt you, but
Yeah.
we've had discussions with other players where, I mean, seek consulting. If you have a good junior, if you have a good junior, and you start feeling stuck, and he's 16, go to consulting. Go to consulting, and you will probably, if he's really good, you'll probably be on tour with him or at the Masters one day with him.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, it'll go away. I think that's a very important message to pass on to coaches that are starting. Just try to find the solutions in books, in seminars that sometimes you come across, and you just seek consulting. It's okay. It's totally okay to say, I don't know.
Yeah, and
I don't know.
What you've also done there as well, though, right, is I'm assuming that you know what the end goal is of how you want X to look, and you just couldn't quite get it with the language you're using, and then got someone else to consult you to get that look, and then you got that look. So you're still building that trust. Like the player knew that where you needed to be. We just need to get there, and that would explain a lot to your longevity with the players, because I reckon that's a mistake that sounds to me like coaches are making, because players are jumping around all the time, right? And like we see it happening a lot, and they're just getting all this new framework given to them, and it's taken them a while to find their feet, if they do find their feet. And it sounds to me like if they weren't getting the answer they needed, they probably should have, they weren't getting the result they wanted. They probably should have just had a better conversation with their coach to try and help them get to that framework, or the coach of the conversation. Like, you know what, we're not getting there the time we wanted to get there. We need to go get it. Like, I don't want to mention too many names, but I'll leave it there. A great play. We're talking about Ryder Cup, but I'll leave it there. But I've just witnessed it recently, and I thought, fuck, I hope you're making the right decision there, buddy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I think if any golf nut listens to this podcast, we all know who you're talking about.
Pretty scary.
And
I'll talk to you about it after the podcast. But mate, Jerome, you've been great. People listening to this, if they want to get in contact with Jerome, he is doing some. He does do skillless lessons, right? And I'm sure coaches can reach out to you as well. I'll put your link.
Yeah, with pleasure.
I'll put all your links below. I appreciate you coming on. It must be getting late there, because it's getting late in my day here.
It is. It is 11 o'clock at night, and I've got about 6 hours to sleep, so that's absolutely perfect.
Mate, I appreciate you coming.
That's all I need. No, with pleasure. Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, mate.
Cheers. Really appreciate it. Thanks. Cheers. Bye-bye.